1, 2, 3, go! Yes, girl love Santa. Hello everyone! This video is going to help you all out if it is a couple of days before Christmas and you're like, oh my goodness, I have no idea what to get this person is too hard to buy for, I don't have enough money left to do that, etc, etc. I wanted to do a kind of quick and easy DIY gift ideas video. That's a bit of a mouthful, definitely won't call it that. Also, I feel like this is quite nice for if those of you out there want to get a bit more creative or possibly a little bit more sentimental, and this allows you to kind of go crazy with it. So I feel like you will all really like this. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is to make your own DIY terrarium. For those of you that don't know, a terrarium is basically a little sanctuary of succulents and cactuses or cacti that just looks really cute. That's probably not the official definition, but that is how I would describe one to you. I actually have a couple of these in my house and I just think they look really nice. Succulents and cacti aren't hard to look after. I say this, but I have definitely somehow managed to kill both a cactus and a succulent in my time. In fact, maybe a couple, but really they are known for being quite low maintenance, so they do make really good gifts. All you'll need to do this is an old candle jar, so a candle that's burnt out that you might have cleared out. A Yankee candle jar would be perfect for this, or maybe even just a round jar, something that you have lying around the house. Maybe you have a clear bowl or something that your parents were going to throw away because they had no use for it. There's always something you can use. I have gone for a small glass bowl which I picked up in Hobbycraft, but I also have a slightly more luxury option if any of you wanted to get a little bit more arty or you had a bit more money to spend. And I got this in Oliver Bonus. They have some really cool things like this, and I think this is actually designed for you to build your own terrarium, so this would be perfect. And it looks pretty impressive. You'll also need to pick up some cactuses or cacti, and you'll also need to grab yourself some succulents. You can pick any shapes, any sizes you like, although I would suggest keeping them quite small because it always looks best if you can arrange a couple in there together. It's also quite nice to mix them up a bit, maybe have a succulent and a cacti together. They're really cool. You can get so many different ones. You can get them in most garden centres, some florists, and I believe they even sell them in a little pack in IKEA for around £4. So they're really budget friendly, and considering it takes quite a lot to kill them, I think that it's a really good idea. Once you have a hold of some succulents and cacti, you want to put them to one side, and then you're going to want things to create layers in your terrarium. By this I just mean visually, especially if you have a clear glass terrarium or a clear glass bowl or old candle holder, it looks quite nice to have different layers. So to do this you can either go to craft stores and select sand and little pebbles and stones, and you're also going to want soil because of course you need to plant the plants. Or if you're a little bit more restricted with your budget and you don't have time to get to a craft store maybe, then you can always just rummage around in the garden. There will always be soil, there will most likely be moss, and there will definitely be stones and pebbles. And as long as it all kind of looks clean, then I think it works really well. So the different layers I have are soil, I have some kind of grainy kind of grey sand, I have some moss, I have some larger stones and some teeny tiny little stones. These were actually for an aquarium, so I think I got these in Pets at Home, you know, the sort of the gravel that you put along the bottom of a fish tank, and that worked really well. Although it definitely doesn't mean you have to stay along the kind of neutral grassy route. You could always get coloured sand if you want to, you can get really cool kind of mosaic pieces, you can get coloured bits of glass. You can really go to town with this if you want to, and I suppose depending on the sort of person you're doing it for, you can kind of tailor that as well. You want to start building up your layers, but you can do this however you like, although the only thing I would suggest you do is make sure you leave enough room for your succulents, and also remember that the soil needs to be fairly near the top because you're going to want to put your succulents and cacti into the soil. When you're planting your succulents and your cacti, you just want to crumble off or shake off any excess soil, just so you have the roots and it becomes a little bit easier to plant it that way. Make a little dip in your layers and in your soil and then pop them in, and then you want to put a tiny bit more soil on top and just kind of pat it down, make sure it's even, make sure everything's sturdy, and then you can go to town with decorating on top as well. I have used pebbles and stones because I think it looks amazing. I also sprinkled a couple of clear glass mosaic pieces on top because I just thought it added a really cute kind of elegant touch. But you can do whatever you want and it just looks so impressive. I would honestly pay money for that if I saw it in a shop, so I'm really happy with my little creations, and I'm sure whoever you give them to will also be really happy. They do always say that if you have plants in the house, you're a happier person. I actually do believe that. I think plants make a home. The next thing I'm going to show you is personalised photo frames. I feel like if you're struggling to get a gift for someone, a photo of you and that person, or a photo that means something to somebody, is always going to be a massive hit. I personally love receiving things like this at Christmas because I am super sentimental. So anything like this, I am completely happy with. You could just use regular frames that you can buy in any kind of shop with, you know, a normal border, and fill it with cute things like confetti or doilies, and you can kind of cut the photos out and stick them on, and that is super easy. But I'm going to show you how to do it with these really cool clear glass hanging frames. I actually picked these up on the John Lewis website, but you can get them pretty much anywhere these days. I think they have them in Oliver Bonus, they've definitely got them on Not on the High Street, and they will most certainly have them on eBay. Then, using your favourite photos, I had a ton of really cute photos from my photo booth at my beauty product launch from last year, and I haven't had any use for them, so I thought this would be perfect. So once you have your photos, you then want to open up the glass, and using things like doilies, confetti, and the thing that I really love is using kind of old birthday cards or kind of inspirational quotes on cards. I mean, you could pick cards up from anywhere. You might even have a little like stash of cards that you really like, but you don't know what to do with them, and I feel like this is the perfect way of incorporating a really lovely image of you and a friend and a quote that kind of sums up your friendship or sums up your friend in some way, and I just think that makes it that little bit kind of extra special. I've also used things like feathers and glitter just to make them a little bit more kind of appealing, and then also make sure you use double-sided sticky tape or just folded over sticky tape in order to keep your little bits and pieces in place once you really like your arrangement, because once you shut the glass and hold it up, you want to make sure that it kind of stays in place, especially if your friend is going to be hanging it up in their house. You don't want everything to kind of slide down. I made one for Louise, I also made one for Tyler, and I of course made one for Alfie, who I did actually show, which is kind of ruining the surprise, but I am way too impatient. I just felt like this idea was super simple, super easy, but you can also really personalize it depending on who you're doing it for, which I think is the most fun part. Plus, you just know that whoever receives them is going to absolutely love them. Personally, I'm going to struggle to give these to either Tyler, Louise or Alfie because I want to keep them all myself. And the last DIY present is a cookie mixture in a jar. I'm sure some of you have seen this before, but it really is so easy and so simple, and I love this idea, so I wanted to incorporate this into the video. The first thing you're going to need is a clear glass jar. You can have any variation of size, it completely depends on how big you want the recipe to be for the cookies. I've gone for a fairly small one just because I think they look really cute when they're small. This size makes around 6 to 8 cookies, obviously depending on how big they want to make them. All you really need to do is measure out your ingredients and layer them in the jar. Again, layering. I feel like this video is all about layering, and the layers look really impressive together, but the best thing about this is that when your friend receives this gift, all they have to do is add an egg and 80 grams of butter and it's immediately cookies, which I think is the great thing about it, because it's so easy, but also all the dry ingredients last really well in the jar, so they don't have to necessarily make them straight away. If you don't have a mason jar or a Kilner jar lying around, you could always use old jam jars as long as the lid is secure and everything inside the jar can stay fresh. or it might actually just be worth asking your parents if they have anything that they're not using anymore, because I feel like most parents have one of those jars like lingering at the back of a cupboard. The measurements that I have chosen to use for this size jar is 100 grams of plain flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 100 grams of soft brown sugar, 30 grams of cocoa powder, 50 grams of milk chocolate chips, and 50 grams of white chocolate chips. And then because it's Christmas, I felt like it would be quite nice to, if you wanted to, spice it up a little bit with some cinnamon, nutmeg, and gingerbread in order to make it taste really festive. So if you want to do that, you obviously can just skip this bit if your friend doesn't like anything remotely kind of cinnamony. But if you wanted to, I also added 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, and a 1/4 teaspoon of ginger. Then all you need to do is decorate your jar. I just used some sparkly silver ribbon and tied a little bow in the front. Then I attached a chalkboard gift tag where I just wrote any other further instructions for the recipient. So adding an egg, adding 80 grams of butter, how long it needed to be in the oven for, which I've put 7 to 9 minutes, and at what temperature, which I've also put 170 degrees Celsius. Just as another little finishing touch, I also popped a little candy cane through it because this is Christmas after all, and I feel like it made it look super festive. And then you are pretty much ready to go. If you want to, you can add a tiny little wooden spoon. I struggled to find one of these, although I did have chocolate spoons, which I think would also be amazing if you could wrap these in cellophane and pop it around the jar. But to be honest, again, you can get as creative with this as you want to. It's all so much fun to do, and I honestly think that when you spend a bit more time on gifts like this, I feel like it's super, super appreciated. So those are my 3 easy DIY gift ideas. I really hope there's something in there that you guys are excited to try and recreate for somebody. Make sure to tag me on Twitter and Instagram if you do, or even if you just want to make any of this for yourself, to be honest. I mean, I do love all 3. I really hope you are enjoying all my videos. Don't forget, I am vlogging every single day over on my second channel, so I will leave a link to that in the description box. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again tomorrow.